get to our experts. We welcome Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty and House Majority Leader and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Mr. Scalise, I want to play some sound from Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, which I think summarizes a lot of this. Please take a listen.
Joe Biden is in violation of federal law that already exists. For one, he is not living up to his duty to deny illegal entry across the border. Instead, he's aiding that illegal entry. The second thing is he's not, once people do cross the border, he is not detaining them as he's required by law. Instead, he's giving mass parole across the country.
So, Mr. Scalise, mass parole across the country. They don't close the border. I don't think they will. Your bill, H.R. 2, is a whole lot better than what I'm hearing from the Senate. How do you read this, Steve Scalise? Just give us a little lowdown. How do you read this?
Well, Larry, President Biden created this problem. Make no mistake about it. And he has the legal authority to fix this problem. Frankly, he has a constitutional mandate to secure our nation. Our nation is not secure when you have thousands of people coming across every day from countries, by the way, that want to do us harm. That's why we put together a really good bill over 6 months ago, H.R. 2, as you talked about, a bill that gets back to the things that you need to do to have real asylum. If you want to seek asylum, you need to stay in your home country, remain in Mexico, end catch and release. All the things that need to happen, build the wall, are in that bill, and the president doesn't want to negotiate on it. Speaker Johnson's been very clear. Any other discussions that they want about Ukraine, anything else, are non-starters until we secure America's border. We have to focus on that. We have a bill to do it. We laid out a template. What we're hearing out of the Senate, where they'll allow thousands more people to come across illegal, is a non-starter. That's dead on arrival. We already have open borders. We need to secure our border. We showed the country how to do it with H.R. 2. The president needs to get in this game. He could do it on his own through executive action. He refuses to because President Biden wants an open border. It's why Mayorkas is under heat today with this impeachment proceeding. President Biden's underwater on this issue, too, because the country is fed up. The country wants a secure border, and so does this Congress.
Senator Hagerty, welcome, sir. Thank you for doing this with Mr. Scalise. We appreciate it very much. Senator Hagerty, two things I don't understand. Number one, you don't need any new legislation. If you want to close the border, close the border. I mean, it can be done by executive direction. It was undone by Biden's executive direction. And the second thing is, Senator Hagerty, this trigger mechanism sounds like a very bad idea. What do you think?
Well, I have respect for my colleagues, as you know, Larry. I think they've been working very hard on a piece of legislation. I haven't seen it, though, as you mentioned. I haven't seen the text, but I'll tell you this. You and I have both been in business for years. When you're negotiating with the other side and they don't show good faith, it's time to walk away. Joe Biden, as Steve Scalise just said, Joe Biden has had every tool that President Trump had. President Trump secured that border, left it in the best shape that we have seen it, at least in my lifetime. Joe Biden came in and intentionally undid all of that. He's shown no good faith to try to step back up, to say he was wrong, to put back in place the border wall, to begin rebuilding that again, to put back in place, remain in Mexico, third-party safe agreements. He's undone all of that. They were in the Supreme Court. The Biden administration was in the Supreme Court just last week seeking permission to take down the razor wire at our southern border that Greg Abbott put up. That is not good faith. When the other side is not negotiating in good faith, it's time to step away. What we've got right now is a situation that is very, very hard to square.
You know, Senator, just on these points, look at the way this bill, now we haven't seen the legislative text, I get that, but this trigger mechanism, 5,000, 8,500, whatever the number is going to be, do you believe for 1 minute that the border will be, quote, closed if you exceed those targets? I mean, really, after what we've been through for the past 3 years, and it was the Mayorkas DHS that would supervise this, it would be the Biden administration, President Biden, that would, if they could close the border, they'd close the border. But they don't want to close the border, and therefore numerical targets may sound good, Senator Hagerty, but I don't believe them. I honestly do not believe it'll ever be enforced.
I think that the Biden administration has shown bad faith throughout. I think you have every legitimate reason to believe, just as you do, Larry, that they won't be enforced. And as complex as this sounds, again, we have not seen the text, but it sounds very complex. It's probably fraught with opportunities for the Biden administration to misinterpret it and to allow more people to come in. So I think we're all very, very concerned about that. And particularly when you talk about Secretary Mayorkas. If he's responsible for overseeing this, listen, I applaud what the House is doing right now. In the private sector, somebody had allowed this to happen. 8 million people to enter our country illegally in the past 3 years under his watch. Hundreds of thousands of people dying from drug overdoses, from fentanyl primarily coming across that southern border. We have no idea how many people are here on the terrorist watch list. The national security crisis is through the roof. And you've got Secretary Mayorkas there. In every hearing where I've cross-examined him, he's been the most Orwellian answerer of anyone that I've ever spoken with. He says the exact opposite of the truth every time. It's high time to deal with him. In the private sector, he would have been fired long ago.
All right. Mr. Scalise, let me come back to you on the impeachment question. Here's what the Democrat report says. Let me just read this. They're not going to be with you as you reckon, quote, after a number of false starts, Republicans have landed on refusal to comply with the law and breach of the public trust as the charges against Secretary Mayorkas. These vague, unprecedented, and fallacious charges amount to policy disputes with the Biden administration and clearly do not pass muster as legitimate grounds for impeachment under the Constitution. The charges against Secretary Mayorkas are at base window dressing for a policy disagreement. All right, that's an interesting argument. Is this a policy disagreement, or is this truly an impeachment offense, Mr. Scalise?
Well, first of all, Secretary Mayorkas' job is to protect America's homeland. He's the Homeland Security Secretary. And when 8 million people have come across our border illegally, including people on the terrorist watch list, he has failed miserably at his job of keeping our country safe and secure. And when he comes before Congress, he testifies under oath that America's border is secure. That's a flat out lie. Either he's ignorant of the facts that are going on at the border, which he can't be, because everybody sees what's going on. President Biden is desperate to try to assign blame to somebody else. He put his own vice president in charge of border security, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. She's failed miserably at the job. But the Secretary of Homeland Security is the person in charge of the border. He can secure the border today. He's chosen not to. And that's a failure of his job. That's why he's facing impeachment proceedings today. And by the way, he's had months, Larry, to get this right. He's chosen not to. So he's brought it upon himself. So has Joe Biden.
Steve Scalise, will this get out of committee today or tonight?
Yes, it'll get out of committee tonight. It'll be on the floor next week for the full House to vote on.
What do you reckon? You think you can get it through? You'll get all Republican support? I know it's a tough call, but what do you think?
Yeah, and look, it's unfortunate we're at this spot, Larry, but the country is fed up. The country wants and deserves a secure border, and we've got a border security chief who doesn't want to secure America's border. We've got a president who doesn't want to secure America's border, but the country demands it. When you look at the events around the world, to allow people from every country, we're not talking about South and Central America right now. There's over 160 different countries represented coming across our border illegally as we speak right now, every single day. And as Senator Hagerty talked about, the deaths from fentanyl, 150 young people a day are dying from the drugs that are being brought across our border because the drug cartels have been allowed to have operational control of our border under Secretary Mayorkas. That's another national disgrace that they're allowing to happen. So all this is going on in full public view. The public's watching it. They're fed up. And if the secretary won't do his job, well, let's impeach him and have somebody else do the job.
Senator Hagerty, going to give you the last word. Do you think there are enough Republicans? I'm not here to attack Senator Langford, by the way, because I think he's done the best he can do. But I don't really like the product, at least as it's been leaked out. Yeah. Are there enough Republicans to stop this in the Senate, do you think?
Well, we haven't seen text so far, and Senator Langford has assured us all that he doesn't want to divide our conference. based on what people are seeing, what people are hearing, we're divided right now, Larry.
Yeah.
So perhaps it doesn't see the light of day. That would suit me just fine if what we're hearing, what you just described, is manifest in the document. It's not going to work here in the United States Senate for the Republicans.
Gentlemen, I just want to thank you both for appearing together. I know it's a bit unusual, but we appreciate it. We're living unusual times. Senator Bill Hagerty and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, two good personal friends.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it
Thanks,
so
Larry.
much.